Have you ever wondered why some women choose to live alone, without a boyfriend, a partner, or even seeming like they're looking for one? It's not because of loneliness, lack of options, or heartbreak. The reason is something deeper, more uncomfortable, something that shakes up everything we've been taught about a woman's role. When a woman chooses to be alone, she's not lost. She's finding herself. And that journey doesn't come with applause, likes, or company. It comes with silence, strength, and a freedom that most people still can't fully understand. She's not lonely. She's selective. She's not cold. She's just tired of burning for people who never wanted to feel the warmth. There's something about a woman who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole that threatens people. It shatters the idea of control, breaks the myth of emotional dependency, and uncovers a truth that many men don't know how to handle. They don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't need saving. And even many women still don't recognize themselves in this kind of woman, this silent, strong force that challenges everything society tells us about love and companionship. Carl Jung once said that everything we deny in ourselves becomes part of our shadow. And many of these women, the ones who choose solitude, are a reflection of that collective shadow. They embody something many secretly wish they could become but are too afraid to. These women aren't loud about their choices. They don't need to be. They don't put themselves on display trying to attract attention. Instead, they retreat to protect and preserve themselves. They've grown less interested in charming princes and more focused on finding their own peace. And let's be honest, this makes people uncomfortable. The world constantly demands that we partner up, that we need someone to feel whole. But these women have discovered the power of being with themselves. The woman who lives alone, without a boyfriend, isn't lost. She's operating on a different level. She doesn't beg for anyone's time or affection. She chooses where to invest her energy, and she doesn't need anyone's approval. Her presence is enough. And maybe that's why she faces so much criticism, so much judgment, so many attempts to label her, explain her, or dismiss her. What many still don't understand is that behind her apparent absence is a presence that fills, that transcends, and that challenges everything people think they know about relationships. She's not looking for just any kind of love. She's waiting for the kind of love that doesn't shrink her. And until that comes, she stands strong, whole, and complete. You might not get it now. Maybe you think she's exaggerating, being prideful, or emotionally damaged. But deep down, there's something inside you. A quiet, almost hidden question that keeps pulsing, even when you try to ignore it. What if this woman's path is the only one that leads to the most important kind of love? The kind that starts with yourself. The silence that surrounds this woman, the one who lives alone, is not emptiness. It's a sanctuary. And those who don't understand the value of that space often call her cold, distant, or even arrogant. But what they fail to see is that she didn't build that fortress to shut the world out. She built it to protect herself, to ensure she doesn't lose herself in the noise and distractions of a world that doesn't honor her autonomy. Carl Jung also said that everything we deny in ourselves becomes part of our shadow. Maybe that's why so many people, especially women, confuse solitude with absence. But in truth, solitude can be the fertile ground for self-discovery. While most people look for validation from external sources, through relationships, status, or possessions, this woman turned her gaze inward. And there, in the depths of her own unconscious, she faced everything she'd been avoiding for years. Childhood wounds, unspoken feelings of abandonment, attachments disguised as love. Her decision to live alone wasn't driven by an open wound. It came from a scar that had finally healed. She didn't stop believing in love. She just stopped accepting what others called love when it only made her feel smaller. She's known chaos. She's loved until she lost herself. She's given too much, begged for the crumbs that shouldn't have been offered. But at some point, she woke up. That awakening wasn't a sudden moment of clarity. It came slowly, over time, with disappointments that stopped hurting and started teaching her valuable lessons. What you see now isn't coldness. It's emotional maturity. And maturity can be intimidating because it requires presence, depth, and truth. She doesn't want just anyone's company. She wants reciprocity. She's no longer attracted to promises or words. She's attracted to real presence, the kind of presence that's rare, the kind that can stand up to the depths of her own being. And that's why she may seem unreachable to many, because she doesn't need to be saved. She wants to be seen, and that takes more than charm or sweet words. It takes courage to dive deep into the emotional and spiritual spaces where few dare to go. And that's where many people give up, not because she's difficult, but because she's whole. When a woman becomes whole, she awakens two extremes in others: admiration and fear. Admiration from those who also seek wholeness, and fear from those who are still waiting for someone else to complete them. This woman doesn't want someone to complete her. She wants someone who's already found their own wholeness, someone who will overflow with her, not drain her. Until that person comes along, she remains alone, not by fate, but out of loyalty to her own soul. She isn't hiding. She's preserving herself. And there's a world of difference between isolating yourself and preserving yourself. But the world doesn't make it easy to be this kind of woman. Society still pushes the idea that happiness only exists in pairs, and anyone without a partner is somehow failing. But this woman doesn't buy into those expectations. She doesn't live by convention. She lives by essence. She doesn't care about phrases like, "You're too picky," or "You should be more open." She smiles calmly, almost ironically, because she knows that what others call picky is simply the bare minimum. The minimum she finally realized she deserves. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for someone mature enough to love her without trying to change her. Someone who's done the inner work she's already done. The discomfort she causes doesn't come from anything she says. It comes from what she represents. She's living proof that it's possible to be happy and whole without needing someone else. And that's a concept that terrifies some people, especially those who thrive on female insecurity or the idea that women must always seek approval from someone else. To those women still trapped in the need for external validation, this woman's confidence and self-reliance can feel like a judgment. But she isn't trying to confront anyone. She's simply being. And that authenticity, being exactly who she is with no apologies, becomes a mirror for those still living in emotional chains. It's intimidating because it forces others to look at their own choices, their own emotional dependency, and confront what they're missing. But this woman isn't in a hurry. She doesn't need to rush into anything to please anyone. She respects her own pace. And for that, she stirs quiet fury in a world that demands everything right now. She's looking for depth while the world chases distractions. She wants presence while everyone else is busy offering shallow availability. She longs for soul-level connections, the kind that go beyond surface-level interactions, but so many people around her are more concerned with looking good on Instagram than truly connecting. And when she says no, it's not a game, it's truth. When she walks away from something that doesn't nourish her, it's not drama, it's self-defense. When she chooses to stay home instead of going out with someone who feels empty, it's not arrogance, it's clarity. She's gained this clarity through years of pain and surrender. And it's her greatest revolution, because she doesn't live to please anyone. She lives to be, and that simple act of being, of existing authentically, is what makes her so dangerous to the system. The world doesn't understand her. It's not her solitude that scares them. It's the peace she's found within herself. Carl Jung said that those who look outward are dreamers, but those who look inward awaken. This woman has awakened, and her journey isn't one of escaping reality. It's a journey of facing the hardest parts of herself and coming out stronger, more whole, more free. It wasn't an easy journey. It was grueling. She didn't just step into herself overnight. She had to strip away the layers of masks, the ones that kept her from facing the deeper parts of who she truly is. She dove into the shadows of her past, the painful memories, the fears she inherited, and the attachments she mistakenly called love. She didn't run from these parts of herself. She faced them one by one until she finally understood them. And when she did, she was no longer the same woman. The process of becoming whole, of integrating the parts of herself she'd once rejected or ignored, wasn't quick or simple. It was a transformation that took time, courage, and a lot of emotional work. It meant learning to sit with discomfort, to look at her own darkness without running away from it. And it wasn't about healing others or trying to fix someone else. She had tried that. She had poured herself into relationships that drained her, giving everything she had only to find that nothing was ever truly reciprocated. She had begged for attention and love, convinced that if she just gave enough, someone would see her worth. But she learned the hard way that no one can fill you if you haven't filled yourself first. The woman who chooses solitude didn't stop believing in love. No, she believes in love deeply. But she learned that love doesn't have to cost you your soul. She stopped accepting what others called love when it only made her feel smaller, like she was shrinking into a version of herself that wasn't truly her. She's not bitter about those past experiences, though. They taught her. They showed her what she needed to change in herself and what she would no longer tolerate in others. She doesn't want just any kind of love anymore. She wants love that respects her, that sees her as whole. She wants the kind of relationship where both people can grow together, not one where one person is always compromising, always shrinking, always fading in the background. And that's why she seems so unreachable to many, because she doesn't want to be saved. She's not looking for someone to complete her. She's already complete. When you understand your worth, when you've done the hard work to uncover who you really are, you no longer need to chase after anyone's attention. You don't need to beg to be loved, to be chosen, or to be seen. That's what makes people uncomfortable. That's what makes others label her. They don't understand how a woman can be so sure of herself, so unbothered by the pressure to conform to what's expected. People still don't get it. They still think that a woman who chooses to be alone must be lonely, broken, or too proud. They don't understand that the silence she lives in isn't a void. It's a place of healing, a place of peace that she's created for herself, a place where she can just be. And when you've created that for yourself, when you're not constantly seeking external validation, it's easy to see how different you are from everyone around you. It becomes obvious that the world, with its endless distractions, doesn't value peace the way it values drama or urgency. This woman knows chaos. She's loved until she lost herself. She's fought for affection that was never reciprocated, giving parts of herself away until she had nothing left. But eventually, she woke up to the fact that she wasn't meant to be anyone's fixer or savior. And this is where her strength comes from waking up to the fact that she can't pour from an empty cup. She learned the hard way that her needs matter, her peace matters, and this realization has become her superpower. It's why she seems so unreachable to many. She's no longer just another person searching for a relationship to fill a gap. She's not sitting around waiting to be saved. She's already saved herself. She's already in love with her own company, and that's a type of love that doesn't need anyone else's approval. She's already been through the pain. She's already done the healing. And now she waits. Not with impatience, not with desperation, but with grace. Because she understands that real love isn't about rushing to find someone to fill an empty space. It's about finding someone who aligns with her peace, with her strength, with the depth she's cultivated within herself. And until that person comes along, she's not in a hurry. She's not going to settle for less than what she deserves. And that's what makes her dangerous to the system. The world isn't used to women who don't settle. The world isn't used to women who have chosen to be alone because they understand their worth. The system wants women to feel incomplete without a partner. But she's showing the world that it's possible to be whole, to be complete, to be at peace with yourself without needing anyone else to define you. But the discomfort she causes isn't just in her independence. It's in what she represents. She's a reminder to everyone around her that happiness doesn't come from another person. It comes from within. And that's something that challenges everything society believes about relationships. People who rely on external sources of validation, people who have yet to do the inner work, can't help but feel triggered by a woman who's learned to rely on herself. When you're truly whole, you stop looking for love in the wrong places. You stop settling for half-hearted relationships that only drain you. You know that you deserve someone who can meet you at your level, someone who can understand the depth of who you are. And until that person shows up, you're not willing to compromise. Not because you're picky or arrogant, but because you know your worth. You've done the work, and you refuse to accept anything less than what you deserve. And that's why this woman, the one who lives alone, doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. She doesn't need to explain her choices. She's already found peace with them. She's done the work to be whole, and now she's living her life from that place of completeness. She's not waiting for someone to fill her up. She's already full. Her life is hers. She's not waiting for someone else to give her permission to live it. She's not looking for validation. She's not trying to be seen. She just is. And that is enough. The truth about this woman is that she's not afraid to stand alone. It's not a matter of pride or ego. It's a matter of survival, of self-preservation. She's already been through enough, experienced enough heartbreak and emotional confusion, to know that it's better to be alone than to settle for something that doesn't nourish her soul. And that understanding is what keeps her standing firm, no matter how much pressure the world puts on her to conform. There are moments, of course, when she feels the weight of loneliness, when the silence in her home feels a little too loud, and the absence of someone to share her thoughts with hits her harder than she expected. But these moments aren't weakness. They're reminders of the strength it takes to walk a path that most people are afraid to walk. She knows that the path of solitude is the one that leads to deeper self-awareness and understanding, even if it sometimes feels isolating. She's not running from loneliness. She's learning to embrace it, to turn it into a sanctuary where she can truly hear her own thoughts, feelings, and desires without distraction. And what she's discovered along the way is that silence is not empty. It's full of wisdom. It's full of her own truth. The loudest noise in the world isn't found in crowds or parties or constant chatter. It's found in the stillness, in the moments when she's alone with herself. In those quiet moments, she's not just existing. She's reflecting, growing, and becoming more of who she truly is. That's what makes her so different from most people. She's not afraid to face the uncomfortable, to look inward and confront the parts of herself that others might prefer to ignore. She's not avoiding the pain of being alone. She's using it as a tool for growth, for learning, for transformation. And through that process, she's become a woman who doesn't need anyone to define her. She's already defined herself. And this, perhaps, is what scares people the most. Because when a woman doesn't need anyone to complete her, when she's truly at peace with her own company, she becomes a force that's hard to ignore. She doesn't need anyone's validation. She doesn't need anyone's approval. She doesn't even need a relationship. This is not to say that she doesn't want love. She does. She longs for it, deeply. But she's learned that real love isn't something you can beg for. It isn't something you can chase after, like a fleeting moment that might come and go. Real love, the kind she's searching for, is a partnership built on mutual respect, trust, and the freedom to be fully yourself. It's a love where neither person feels the need to shrink, to change, or to compromise their essence. It's a love that adds to who she already is, not a love that takes away or diminishes. The world tells her to settle. It tells her to be more patient, more open, more forgiving. But she knows better now. She knows that settling for less than she deserves is a disservice to herself. It's a betrayal to everything she's learned, everything she's healed. She's not afraid to wait for the kind of love that will meet her where she is, that will understand her depth and complexity. And she's not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't honor that. She's not in a hurry, and that's what makes her so different. She's not playing the game of romantic urgency that so many are caught up in. She's not swiping left and right, hoping for the next best thing. She's not scrambling for someone to fill the empty spaces of her life. She's already whole. And if that means walking alone for a while, so be it. She knows that sometimes the best relationships happen when you stop looking for them. She doesn't need someone else to validate her. She's already validated herself. And that's why she's so powerful. She's so sure of her worth that she's no longer afraid of being alone. She's learned to enjoy the freedom that comes with solitude, the freedom to pursue her own passions, to grow without restrictions, to live on her own terms. And that makes her dangerous to the system, to the norms that tell us that we must pair up, that we must depend on others to feel complete. But she's not trying to be dangerous. She's just living her truth. She's living the life that she's created for herself, a life that is rich with meaning, depth, and purpose. And the world is catching up to her. Slowly but surely, more and more women are waking up to the realization that they don't need to be in a relationship to feel complete. They don't need anyone else to define them. They can walk their own path, alone if they must, until they find someone who truly matches their energy, their values, and their vision for the future. And when that someone does show up, they'll find a woman who is whole, who is complete, who doesn't need saving, and who isn't afraid to stand her ground. She'll be a woman who's ready for a love that's built on equality, mutual respect, and shared growth. Not a love that requires sacrifices, compromises, or compromises of her own sense of self. She'll be a woman who can give love freely, without fear, because she knows what it means to love herself first. And she'll demand the same kind of love from anyone who wants to be in her life. Because real love isn't about rescuing someone. It's about standing beside them, supporting them, and growing together, both individually and as a unit. And when that kind of love arrives, it will be a celebration of everything she's already become, not a salvation of someone who's been waiting for someone else to make her whole. This woman is not lost. She's not broken. She's whole, and she's waiting for someone who's also whole. She's not waiting for someone to complete her. She's not looking for a fairy tale, not even close. The kind of love she wants is not a rescue mission or a quick fix for something broken inside. It's a love that is deep, grounded, and free of dependency. She's done with relationships that drain her energy, that try to take her light and keep her in the shadows. She's not interested in being the savior for someone else's unhealed wounds. She's already done that work. She's been there, lived through the chaos, and emerged on the other side stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. The woman who lives alone understands that love isn't about finding someone to fill the gaps in your life. It's about finding someone who can stand beside you, equally strong and independent, someone who will encourage you to continue growing, to keep evolving into the best version of yourself. It's about sharing experiences, laughter, and joy, but also about allowing each other the space to continue growing individually. And this is why she's not in a rush. She's not desperate for affection or validation. She doesn't need anyone to tell her she's beautiful or special. She knows she is. She doesn't need to be chosen or pursued because she's already chosen herself. She's already made the decision to honor her own needs, to respect her own time, and to protect her own heart. And maybe that's what makes people uncomfortable. Maybe that's what stirs up all the criticism and judgment. Because a woman who lives like this doesn't conform to the typical ideas of romance, relationships, or femininity. She's not looking to be saved. She's not looking for someone to tell her that she's worthy. She knows she is. This isn't to say she doesn't want companionship. She does. She wants the kind of companionship that is rooted in mutual respect, in shared values and goals, where both partners are free to be who they truly are without fear of judgment or rejection. She's not interested in superficial connections or temporary flings. She's looking for something real, something authentic. She wants a love that supports her growth, not a relationship that keeps her tied down or held back. But until that kind of love comes along, she's okay with being alone. In fact, she prefers it. She prefers the peace and quiet that comes with solitude, the space it provides for her to reflect, to grow, to connect with herself in ways that she never could when she was constantly focused on another person's needs. She knows that, for now, the most important relationship she has is with herself. And when she says no to someone who doesn't respect her boundaries, when she walks away from a situation that doesn't feel right, it's not because she's cold or indifferent. It's because she values herself enough not to settle. She's learned the hard way that self-respect is non-negotiable. She knows that it's better to be alone than to settle for anything less than what she truly deserves. She's also learned that loneliness doesn't mean she's lacking. Loneliness, for her, is a choice. It's a space she creates to nurture herself, to heal, to explore the depths of her own soul. It's not a punishment. It's a sanctuary. It's where she can rediscover who she is, what she wants, and how she wants to show up in the world. And that's why she's not afraid of being alone. She knows that the best relationships come when you're whole and complete, not when you're searching for someone to make you feel whole. The world might label her as picky or cold, but what they don't understand is that her standards aren't too high. She's simply refusing to accept anything that doesn't align with her values, her sense of self-worth. She's not looking for perfection, but she's looking for someone who's done the work she's done. Someone who understands the importance of emotional maturity, of integrity, of self-awareness. She's not interested in settling for a relationship that requires her to shrink or become something she's not. She wants a partner who is equally strong, equally independent, and equally committed to their own personal growth. She doesn't want someone who is dependent on her for emotional support or validation. She wants someone who will support her as much as she supports them. Someone who will stand by her side, not behind her, not in front of her, but alongside her. This woman, the one who lives alone, isn't afraid of being single. She's not afraid of facing life on her own. In fact, she's learned that being alone isn't a weakness. It's a strength. It's a choice she makes because she understands that being in the wrong relationship is far worse than being alone. She's learned to be comfortable in her own skin, to enjoy her own company, to trust herself. She's learned that self-love is the foundation for everything else in life. She doesn't need anyone to define her. She knows exactly who she is, what she stands for, and what she's worth. And that makes her a force to be reckoned with. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. She doesn't need anyone's approval. She's not waiting for someone to come along and fix her life. She's already fixed it herself. And when that real, deep, meaningful love finally comes along, she'll be ready. But she won't settle for anything less than what she truly deserves. She's done the work. She's faced the darkness. She's fought the battles. And now, she's standing in the light, stronger than ever, ready to share her life with someone who can meet her at her level. Someone who will add to her life without trying to take away from it. Until then, she remains alone, not because she's afraid of being alone, but because she understands that some things are worth waiting for. And this is where her journey has led her. To a place of complete inner peace, a place of knowing who she is and what she deserves. She's not lost, not incomplete, not desperate. She's fully herself. And that's what makes her so captivating, so magnetic, even when she's alone. She doesn't need anyone's approval or validation. She simply lives her truth, and that, in itself, is her most powerful statement. This woman is not just walking through life. She's living with intention. She's chosen the path of self-discovery, self-love, and self-respect. She's learned the hard way that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And when you truly love and accept yourself, when you're not seeking validation from others, you become unstoppable. She's not waiting for the world to tell her she's worthy. She's already known her worth for a long time. She doesn't need anyone else to complete her because she's already whole. And when people see that, when they witness her strength, her clarity, and her independence, they might not always know how to respond. It can be uncomfortable for some to see a woman who is so sure of herself, so at peace with her own choices. But that discomfort isn't about her. It's about the world's expectations. It's about the rules the world tries to impose on what a woman should or shouldn't do, should or shouldn't want. A woman who is whole doesn't fit neatly into those boxes. And that's what makes her dangerous to the system. She challenges those expectations. She shows the world that you don't need a partner to be complete. You don't need someone else to tell you you're valuable. You don't need to be saved. You're already whole just as you are. There's a quiet strength in her that doesn't need to announce itself. Her presence speaks louder than any words ever could. She doesn't need to explain herself, justify her choices, or seek permission. She simply is, and that is enough. And for those who are still searching for validation outside themselves, her confidence can be unsettling. Because it's a reminder that the validation they're chasing doesn't come from others. It comes from within. The woman who chooses to live alone is the epitome of emotional freedom. She has learned to live without the constant need for approval, without the pressure to conform to anyone else's expectations. She's not in a hurry to find someone to share her life with. She's in no rush because she knows that real love can't be rushed. Real love is born from authenticity, from being completely honest with yourself and with others. And she's not settling for anything less than that. In the end, the love she's waiting for isn't a fairy tale love. It's not the kind of love that fills her emptiness. She's not empty. It's the kind of love that celebrates who she already is, that adds to her life without taking away from it. It's a love that allows her to continue growing, to continue evolving, to continue being the woman she's become. She has already walked through the fire. She's already faced her fears, her insecurities, her shadows. And now, she stands in her own light, stronger than ever, unshaken by the world's judgment. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. She doesn't need to beg for anyone's time, attention, or love. She knows her worth. And when love comes, it will come as a celebration, not as a rescue. It will be a partnership between two whole people, both strong, both independent, both ready to stand side by side and build something beautiful together. But until that love comes along, she's okay. She's more than okay. She's living her life fully, passionately, and authentically. She's not waiting for someone to make her life better. She's already making her own life extraordinary. She's carving her own path, following her own heart, and living according to her own terms. And that is what makes her so dangerous. Because when a woman understands her worth, when she knows that she doesn't need anyone to define her, that is when she becomes unstoppable. She doesn't need anyone's permission. She doesn't need anyone to tell her she's worthy. She already knows. And in a world that still tells women they need someone else to feel complete, she is a living example of the fact that sometimes the best relationship you can have is the one with yourself. And when that kind of relationship is fully realized, when a woman truly knows and loves herself, she will never settle for anything less than the love she deserves.